Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Thank you. Hello, my name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the Minute Waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners in this country and around the world, and also to welcome to the programme four exciting, talented performers who are going to show their skill with words and language as they try and speak on a subject that I give them, and they try and do that without hesitation, repetition or deviation. And they are, seated on my right, Paul Merton and Alun Cochrane, and seated on my left, Gyles Brandreth and Stephen Mangan. Please welcome all four of them. Beside me sits Sharon Leonard, who's going to help me with the score, and she will blow a whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And we're going to begin the show this week with Stephen, and the subject is the mother-in-law. Will you tell us something about that subject in this game starting now?
Well, I don't know about the mother-in-law as a concept. Well, of course I do, because that's the subject I've been asked to speak upon. But my mother-in-law is an intelligent, warm, witty, kind, beautiful, graceful, articulate and fragrant.
Gyles Talent.
Deviation, it's not what he was saying before the show.
Gyles, whether I believe you or not, he wouldn't say anything other than that about his mother-in-law. So, Gyles, we enjoyed your interruption. We give you a bonus point for that. Stephen was interrupted, so he gets a point for that. And you still have 44 seconds to tell us about this subject, the mother-in-law, starting now.
This glorious person I describe in such glowing terms, partly because she may be listening to this broadcast, but mostly because I'm pretty
Paul, you challenge us.
Hesitation.
Hesitation, yes. Paul, there's 33 seconds still available. You tell us something about the mother-in-law, starting now.
The mother-in-law, of course, was a comic stereotype that lasted for a great number of years. Les Dawson was a marvellous exponent of the mother-in-law joke. I could always tell when the mother-in-law was coming round, the mice would throw themselves onto the traps. But in real life, his mother-in-law, as he said, was a great anchor and stalwart for the family. And when he was growing up in 1930s Manchester, in sort of the poverty that we're seeing now, it was often the mother-in-law that kept the family together. She had to be a strong figure. So he said that actually his jokes about mother-in-laws came more from an admiration of their strength and something to be frightened of, because actually they were good people.
So Paul Merton was then speaking as the whistle went and gained that extra point for doing so. We're having quite an erudite show, aren't we? And Alun, will you tell us something about 40 winks, if you can, in 60 seconds, starting now?
We're having an erudite show, and I'll put paid to that. And as if to prove it.
Remarkable self-prophecy.
So, Paul, what's your...
Hesitated. Said,
It's all right, I'm a grown-up, I can take this.
Doesn't matter, that's my name, Nabbit, that's fine.
No.
He's going to be generous and let you have it.
Yeah.
You can have the benefit of the doubt. And Alun, you still have 57 seconds to tell us something about 40 winks, starting now.
40 winks is a name for a nap quite often, but it's slightly strange because 50 winks would be more restful and 60 would be even more. That's repetition. There we go.
Gyles.
Repetition of more.
Yes. 46 seconds for you, Gyles, on 40 winks, starting now.
40 winks is a euphemism, a word that comes from the Greek meaning fair, to make more beautiful. And 40 winks is a manner of speaking of slumber in a manner that is more attractive and...
Stephen.
Manna from heaven. There were two manners.
And Gyles threw himself on Stephen's shoulder
Yeah.
as he realised his error. Stephen, you were listening well, and you've got him with 35 seconds to go. 40 winks is with you, starting now.
40 winks. I can't do it. Never have been able to badoo. What was wrong with that?
What was wrong with that, Gyles?
I'm afraid there was hesitation. And badoo-badoo, it was a repetition of badoo-badoo. Repetition of badoo-badoo as a euphemism for hesitation.
He's always saying badoo-badoo, it's his catchphrase.
It's my middle name.
Badoo, he's
known as the
actually written the words
badoo-badoo
down.
man.
Badoo-badoo is two different words. Badoo-badoo. It's repetition He was doing it because he was hesitating, and it's deviation from the subject. What has Badoo got to do with 40 weeks? So it's the triple whammy.
I think if you take 40 winks, you go into a sort of doobie-doo state. But Gyles, you maybe have a point, but I don't think you're going to have a point with just a minute, because I'm going to be generous to Stephen. You have the benefit of the doubt. If I can redress the balance later, Gyles, and give you the benefit, I will give it to you.
Thank you.
Stephen has it this time. 31 seconds, 40 winks, Stephen, starting now.
In fact, I'm so jealous of those that can power nap that I run up to them and scream, "We're all going to die!" And they suddenly wake up and I say, "Oh, I'm terribly sorry. I just had a sudden realization of immortality." "What am I talking about?" said the
Alun
mouse.
challenged.
40 winks.
40 winks.
I just thought I'd help him. He said, "What's he talking about?"
That's what he's meant to be talking about.
Right, Alan. Hesitation. You have 16 seconds. Tell us something about 40 winks, starting now.
Stephen Mangan struggles to do 40 winks, but it's really easy. You just blink with one eye, then the other, and before...
Paul, you challenge first.
Repetition of then the other.
Then the other, yes.
Yes.
You have 9 seconds now, Paul, on 40 winks, starting now.
40 winks. I look forward to them every afternoon between the hours of 3 and 4. I rest my head on the pillow and allow the god of Morpheus to enter my dreams.
So Paul Merton was speaking as a whistle when gained that extra point has moved forward. He's taken the lead ahead of Stephen Mangan and then Gyles, Brandreth and Alun Cochrane in that order. And Paul, we're actually back with you to begin. And the subject is not an old common phrase, not on your Nelly. Tell us something about not on your Nelly in this game, starting now.
Well, I immediately remember that it was a sitcom starring Hilda Baker in the mid-1970s, but not on your Nelly is a phrase that's been bandied around for a number of years. It means not on your life, I suppose, but I don't know if there's any actual sort of agreed interpretation of why Nelly. It may be Cockney rhyming slang. What does Nelly rhyme with? Belly? Doesn't seem to be right. Perhaps it's one of those phrases that you put together...
Gyles challenge.
Repetition of phrases.
Yes, phrases, right. Gyles, you've got in with 38 seconds on not on your Nelly, starting now.
Nelly the elephant packed her trunk and said goodbye to the circus.
Paul challenge.
Not on your Nelly. I don't want him singing that song. He started singing Nelly the Elephant. It's got nothing to do with Not on Your Nelly.
No.
You're going to discover this in a moment if you just...
We haven't got great time for your memoirs to come out.
Well, I'll tell you what I'll do. I think it was quite a genuine challenge, but I was a little unfair to Gyles recently. I said I would give him the benefit of the doubt
Absolutely.
if we got it back. So you've got the benefit this time, Gyles,
Thank
and you have 34 seconds, not on your Nelly, starting now.
When I was a boy...
Can I just say, please don't sing again? That was just...
Gyles, you were interrupted. You have a point. You have 33 seconds, not on your Nelly, starting now.
I went to school in Bombay, and on my way to my place of education, I travelled on my pet pachyderm and parked it in the bicycle sheds. The headmistress regularly said to me, "Not on your Nelly, why can't you come on a llama like the rest of the children?" They didn't like this vast beast that I had, with its glorious trunk that showered me during the lunch break. "Not on your Nelly" became the cry that went out as I travelled along the dust towards this glorious place where my mind was improved and taken into realms of fantasy and beauty, the kind of which...
You've certainly gone into the realms of fantasy there, Gyles, but no one interrupted you. Kept going to the whistle
Very
when
sweet of
gained that extra point. You're equal with Stephen Mangan now in second place. 1 point behind Paul Merton and 2 or 3 points ahead of Alun Cochrane. Gyles, it's your turn to begin. The subject is French dressing. Will you... You're making a very sexy face now.
I'm scared.
Yes, we're all a bit scared. Tell us something about French dressing, starting now.
I can't wait to take Stephen Mangan back to my place to show him my dressing up box. We will discover my...
Stephen Mangan challenge.
Someone call me a taxi, please.
You're a taxi. No, you'll all be using it tomorrow. What are you talking about?
Give Stephen a bonus point because we enjoyed his interruption. Gyles, you were interrupted. You have 53 seconds for French dressing, starting now.
My German dressing consists of lederhosen,
All chance.
Deviation, the subject's French dressing, not German dressing.
Yes.
Deviation from the subject.
I was going to...
Oh, we were going to, in my memoirs, I was going to do this.
I was going to compare and contrast. It was but a phrase to dismiss my German dressing and to get on to the French dressing.
Yeah.
I will get on to the French dressing now. I think that was a legitimate introduction.
I'm not sure it was, and I give benefits of the doubt. You've had yours, and this time Paul will have the benefit of the doubt.
Oh, you're missing a treat.
You said that to
Stephen's
me.
missing a treat too, because it wasn't just French dressing, it was French cross-dressing. Thank you.
Any word on that taxi?
Gyles, you made this promise to me many times before and never come across. Paul, benefit of the doubt, and you have French dressing, 51 seconds, starting now.
And so the Grand National was run every year after that. French dressing, on the other hand, is another subject I'd like to talk about. It's a wonderful thing to be able to look a beret in the eye, put it firmly on your head, perhaps tilt it to one angle, and then find the finest suit that you can buy from a Parisian tailor. You walk into Paris, you say, I would want to find myself wearing...
Gyles, challenge.
A repetition of find.
Yes, you want to
yes,
find,
yeah,
yes,
yeah.
just the best beret you can find. So, Gyles, you've got it back in again with French dressing, 27 seconds available. Don't talk about German dressing, will you? Starting now.
The truth is that when I first met Raymond Blanc, he showed me how to do a French dressing, and it was a wonderful experience. We took the vinegar and then the oil, and finally we squeezed together a little bit of garlic from a most amusing instrument that he'd been given by his gracious mother-in-law. And then we created this wonderful mixture that we tossed onto our salad and took over to the home of one of our curly-haired friends, who was dressed in Mexican clothes, wearing a sombrero. We said, here's French dressing.
So Gyles, on a different tack, kept going till the whistle went, gained that extra point, and he's now in the lead, one ahead of Paul Merton, who's equal with Stephen Mangan. And Stephen, you're going to begin the next round, and the subject is Dr. Theatre. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
I can't go on, said the actor in his dressing room just before curtain up. I've got runny nose and sore throat and the trots and dysentery and bilharzia and pneumonia and glaucoma. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your 5-minute call. I suddenly feel fine. That is the effect of Dr. Theatre upon thespians. No matter how ill they feel, once they know it's time for the show, they razzle, they dazzle, and they...
Paul,
There was hesitation.
yes, definite
Razzle
hesitation. We couldn't follow Razzle and Dazzle. 29 seconds, Paul, is still available. Dr. Theatre is with you, starting now.
It is very true that if you find yourself playing a part in London's West End, and perhaps your name is even on the poster or the outside, so you are obliged to appear in front of the public. I find this voice very boring, and if somebody doesn't interrupt me, I'm going to kill them.
Gyles, challenge.
I was responding to a cry for help.
So what's your challenge when the rules are just a
what's
minute?
your challenge in the rules, eh?
Yeah, yes. Yes.
He repeated his cry for help.
Well, he did actually want to get rid of it, so I don't know what to do, actually.
I'll keep it.
I love giving you opportunities to show off your literate knowledge and command of language.
All right, give it to him.
You've got a programme about words, haven't you?
Oh, thank you very much indeed. Yes, thank you.
So I've given you the plug for your programme.
You've given me the plug, and now give the point to your love child.
Gyles, we do try and keep something secret. 16 seconds, Paul, on Dr. Theatre, starting now.
I think ever since the actors first walked on the stage, they've been prone to all sorts of ailments, but it comes to the night you have to get on there and do it. As Stephen said earlier, Dr. Theatre is the thing that sends adrenaline through your system. It doesn't matter if you've got flu. You have to go out there and enunciate the words that have been written for you, because the people have paid their money, and if you're not on stage, they want their money back.
So Paul Merton was speaking again as the whistle went, gained that extra point. But Alun, it's your turn to begin, and the subject now is the cleverest man I ever knew. Will you tell us something about that in this game, starting now?
The cleverest man I ever knew was a wonderful person. He worked on a building site in Bradford, but he didn't employ any of those annoying sticks.
Gyles.
hesitation?
It was a
afraid it was a
hesitation.
hesitation.
I'm impressed you spotted it. That was...
So, Gyles, correct challenge. 50 seconds. The cleverest man I ever knew, starting now.
Einstein, Galileo, Michelangelo, I did not know them, but Nicholas Percival Parsons is undoubtedly the cleverest man I have ever known. His genius is something to reckon with. His head bulges with brains.
Paul
Is there
Jan-
more than one Nicholas Parsons?
He did actually say Nicholas Percival Parsons.
Yes.
And that's not me.
That's not him.
No. So I am Christopher Nicholas Parsons.
Oh.
Oh, yes. So what your challenge is incorrect, isn't it?
I think it is, yeah.
Yes, because that could be the cleverest person you know.
Yeah, exactly.
And 37 seconds, Gyles. The cleverest man I ever knew, starting now.
The person I have referred to was my tutor at New College, Oxford University, and it was he who told me that a slight inclination of the cranium is as adequate as a spasmodic movement of one optic when equine quadruped, utterly devoid of visionary capacity, when of course I meant a nod's as good as a wink to a blind horse. This was an individual who was a scholar, but had gypsy blood in him, and he offered an education that was remarkable. There was no aspect of knowledge that he did not have within his grip. This was a man who made Tacitus seem tame, who made Sophocles seem sour, who made all the people like Virgil.
Paul Challenge.
Who made...
Who made?
scene?
Those are the rules of just a minute, audience. And he was listening well. Paul, the correct challenge. Oh, and you've got him with 1 second to go. But it's a correct challenge. The cleverest man I ever knew, Paul, starting now.
Christopher Nicholas Parsons, the cleverest man I ever knew.
So Paul, speaking as a whistle when, gained that extra point. He's just edged ahead of Giles Brandreth. He's few more ahead of Stephen Mangan and Alun Cochrane in that order. And actually, we're back with you to begin, Paul. And the subject now is Strangers on a Train. 60 seconds starting now.
It was originally a novel written by Patricia Highsmith. I think her very first book. It was bought up for film rights by Alfred Hitchcock.
Stephen Challenge.
Is there a bit of a hesitation?
There was a bit of a hesitation, yes. 54 seconds are still available, Stephen. Strangers on a Train, starting now.
Strangers on a Train was the unsuccessful follow-up to Strangers in the Night. Both were in great pain and carried lances. That's not how the song goes, but if I had written it...
Paul Challenge.
Deviation, that's not how the song goes.
It doesn't matter, that's not how the song goes, but he was just giving us a little ditty, which we enjoyed.
Yes, absolutely. I can't wait for it to come out as a Christmas single.
So, technically, you weren't deviating within the rules of just a minute. So, Stephen, you have a point for being interrupted. You have 42 seconds still. Strangers on a Train, starting now.
Who hasn't fantasised about meeting a stranger on a train?
Me.
Giles, it's
Oh, Alan, we enjoyed the interruption. Give him a bonus point. But, Stephen, you were interrupted, so you get a point for that. And you've still got Strangers on a Train, 38 seconds, starting now.
The entire world, apart from Alun, has thought about meeting one day maybe a stranger on a train, falling in love, moving to Kent, having 46 children, and opening a boutique selling lacy dolls.
Giles challenged.
We began to hesitate on lacy dolls, but the fantasy became too great. He's acknowledging it with a little
He
nod.
wasn't going as fluently as usual, but I think he was keeping going all right. So you have an incorrect challenge again. Another point to you, Stephen. You're rushing forward now, my goodness me. And there are 25 seconds still available. Strangers on a Train, starting now.
The reason why the single Strangers on a Train never troubled the top 40 was that it contained a 45-minute bongo solo in the middle, played by Animal from the Muppets, who famously was unable to keep time because his hairiness when the
Giles challenge.
I felt there was a...
Yes, there
teacher
was
sort
that
of
time,
teetered
Giles,
over.
yes. You get so keen sometimes, Giles.
I know. It's only... I have to tell you, it's because my godson is in the audience, live, in colour. I've got one of my godchildren here. Yeah. I've been a very, very bad...
Oh, he's the one who's crawling under the seat now, is he? Right, Giles. You have 9 seconds. Strangers on a train starting now.
I keep being approached by strangers on trains saying to me, "Are you really Stewie Griffin? I can't believe it. You sound so odd." They also say, "Could you be Justin Bieber?"
Well, mate. Right, so Gyles was then speaking as a whistle. When gained that extra point, and he has leapt forward. And he is equally in the lead with Paul Merton, but they're only 1 point ahead of Stephen Mangan, who got a lot of points in that round. Alun Cochrane is still struggling a little, but he's still in there with a chance.
It's difficult as well, because my godchild is in the audience. It's embarrassing.
Stephen, it's your turn to begin. The subject is laughing all the way to the bank. Will you tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now?
If you literally laugh all the way to the bank, you've either been told the world's funniest joke or you need to seek psychiatric help. Nothing can possibly be that amusing. Hee hee.
Repetition of he.
He.
Isn't it hyphenated?
No. It's a tough game, Stephen. Repetition, yes. 47 seconds for you, Paul. Laughing all the way to the bank, starting now.
George Osborne, I imagine, might be somebody who could have a chuckle at the bank because he has inherited millions. For the rest of us, we have...
Giles challenge.
Deviation, that was the problem. He didn't inherit millions.
Didn't he?
No.
George Osborne?
No, didn't inherit millions.
Oh, didn't he?
And nor did the country, alas. That was the real problem, of course.
I know.
Not even billions.
So what is your challenge when the
He wants
rules
his
are just a
godson to see him win.
My challenge is deviation from the truth. I happen to know this
But
person.
he didn't establish it
I'm
was-
trying to say...
He didn't establish that it was the Chancellor of Exchequer.
No, it's another George Osborne, huh?
Laughing all the way to the bank is still with you, Paul. 41 seconds, starting now.
And Percival would have such a wonderful smile upon his face because he was the man that cleaned at the bank and he loved his job. There was something about the feel of the broom in his hand, the bristles against the hard stone floor that excited his heart, that got his blood racing around his frame. He used to say to his wife as he was leaving the house, "I'm off to clean up today, darling." It was one of his little jokes and she didn't mind it because...
Giles challenge.
Repetition of clean. He went to clean the bank and said, "I'm going to clean." It wasn't cleaning, it was clean
For the
both
sake
times.
of a poor joke, I repeated myself. So that's my career.
So at last you've got in again.
Well done.
Giles, there are 14 seconds to tell us more about laughing all the way to the bank, starting now.
My wife is demented about recycling, and consequently she tells jocose bits of humour as we trot together towards the bank to recycle differently worded our bottles and our...
You've been challenged by Paul Merton. What are you looking like that for?
Stephen just goosed me.
Right, Paul, what was your Merton?
Was it repetition of ha-ha?
Oh, yes, we did say ha-ha, that's repetition.
Ha! H-A-A.
Well, listen, there's only 1 second to go. And I tell you what, I will give this to whoever can answer this question. Which well-known performer first used that phrase?
Laughing all the way to the bank. Oh,
Arthur Haynes.
Max Miller.
No, what?
Max Miller.
No.
Give us a clue.
It was the fellow who played the piano, Liberace.
Oh, of course! No, we knew that.
Well, you didn't say it, did you? When they were criticising Liberace for the way he performed and was making pots of money,
right.
his response was, which is very clever, "Yes, I know, I laugh all the way to the bank."
Yeah.
And neither of you got it right, so that's a point to me. Let me give you the situation. Alun Cochrane, who's only played it once or twice before, is training just a little in fourth place. And Stephen has only done it once before, is in a very strong second place, but still, with these two very tough competitors, they are still in the lead, right out in front, equal. And we go into the final round with Alun Cochrane's turn to begin. And Alun, the subject is the Old Guard. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
The Old Guard is a comic book that I have published about a cricket box.
Stephen, you challenge.
No, nothing. I haven't
It was
got
a
to say.
hesitation.
Well, it was a bit, but I feel cruel because that was...
Well done.
I wanted to hear about the comic book. But it was a hesitation.
It was a
hesitation.
It was.
Yeah, it's a game. That's what happens. It's okay.
So there are 55 seconds now for you, Stephen, to tell us something about the old guard, starting now.
The old guard at the front of my building is called Vincent Cassell, and he sells me all sorts of knickknacks when I pass him on the way home from work. Would you like to see what I've got on offer today? He sometimes says to me in his strangulated and very strange voice, picked up from a 1940s movie starring Mr. Brian Maloney. If you've never heard of him, he was a fabulous actor who often played old guards, coincidentally, in films about trains. He would stand at the back waving a flag upon which was the Jolly Roger. Why, in a film about...
Paul Chance.
Oh, we did have film before.
We did have film before,
Repetition
yes.
of film.
But we did enjoy it. Well done, Stephen. Paul, correct challenge, 16 seconds. The old guard, starting now.
It recalls to mind the old guard that Clive Dunn, one of the people in Dad's army, died recently at the age of 92. There very little left of the old guard now. Bill Pertwee is still alive from that programme. Frank Williams, the vicar.
Giles challenge.
A number of hesitations
Well,
during what he was saying. It doesn't matter to me because actually I've gone through rather a sad moment just now. I've had a text from my godson.
Says,
Still
"Go
on
home,
the
you
train.
embarrassing
Sorry, I can't make it. I've gone through all this hell and he's not turned up.
so what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a bonus point for that, but Paul gets the point because it was his. It was interrupted, and there are 4 seconds still, Paul, on the old guard, starting now.
When I think of the old guard, I always consider in my mind that magnificent...
Well, the final score, as I told you, Alan Cochrane, who gives great value always, but he trail a little. And I'm going to be generous with Stephen, because he only played the game once before. Magnificent. Well done. Third place. A few... And the two who last time these four were together battled it out in the lead, Paul Merton and Giles Brandreth, and they finished up equal. But this occasion, Paul got there 1 point ahead. So we say, Paul, you are the winner this week. So it only remains me to say thank you to these four fine players of the game, Paul Merton, Alan Cochrane, Stephen Mangan and Giles Brandreth. I think Sharon Leonard, who's helped me with the score, blown her whistle with such delicacy all the time. Oh, you've got a godson in the door. And we're grateful to our producer, Talusha Galani. We're indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game. And we're grateful to this lovely audience here, who've cheered us on our way magnificently. So from the audience, from the team here, from me, Nicholas Parsons, goodbye, thank you. Tune in at the same time when we will play Just a Minute.
Paul Merton's back on next week's panel with Jenny Eclair, Julian Clary and Richard Herring.
Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Hello, my name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners in this country and around the world, and to welcome to the show four exciting, talented, humorous individuals who are going to show and display their talent with words and language as they try and speak on the subject that I give them, and they do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviation. And they are, seated on my right, Paul Merton and Julian Clary, and seated on my left, Jenny Eclair and Richard Herring. Please welcome all four of them. Beside me sits Trudy Stevens, who's going to help me with the score, and she'll blow the whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And this particular edition of Just a Minute is coming from the Rada Theatre. There's a lovely atmosphere, a lovely audience, and we have some great subjects. And we begin the show with Richard Herring. The subject is My Family Tree. Will you tell us something about my family tree in this game, starting now?
The comedian Alexander Armstrong can get his family tree all the way back to William the Conqueror. My family tree is not as impressive. I can go back to Don Hannon.
Julian challenge.
Repetition of back.
Yeah. Yes, there was too much back there. And Julian, you've got in with 51 seconds to go and got your first point. My family tree starting now.
If you'd like to know about my family tree, I should point you in the direction of who do you think you are? A bona fide.
Paul challenged.
Hesitation, sir.
Yes, indeed, yes. My family tree is back with you, Paul, and is 45 seconds available starting now.
My family tree has grown on the family estate since 1785, which is about 6:15, I think. And I remember that it was an oak tree in my childhood, but over the years, curiously, the quality of the tree has changed. Where there was once the dark wood, there has been...
Julian challenged.
Oh, are you allowed to challenge for there?
Yes.
Yes, if you keep repeating it, yes.
Seems a bit mean.
It's what we call a tough challenge, but it's legitimate because it's within the rules of just a minute. So, Julian, you've got in with 26 seconds on My Family Tree starting now.
It transpired from that BBC series. It was
Repetition of B.
Yes. A little bit of tit for tat. Right. So, Paul, 24 seconds are still available. Tell us more about My Family Tree starting now.
My family tree, my father Albert and his...
Jenny, you challenged.
Hesitation.
Yes, there was a definite there. Jenny, you've got My Family Tree. You haven't got My Family Tree, but you've got the subject.
Glad.
Of My Family Tree. It's a very good one, actually.
Yeah, it is, it's lovely.
You'd be very proud if you did have it.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm not sure I want your sap in my system.
Very good, spontaneous improvisation there. Right. 20 seconds are still available, Jenny. My family tree starting now.
The roots of my family tree lie buried deep in Lancashire, home of the meat and potato pie, and which my ancestors include people such as Stage...
Richard
There were
challenged.
several hesitations, but they were getting worse.
I was rubbish.
They were getting worse, and there was a big gap there.
No, I think it was quite nice. You transported me back to Lancashire. Right. So there's 6 seconds. Richard, you've got a point, and you've got your first point on this game, and you've got 6 seconds. Tell us something about My Family Tree starting now.
A family tree seems to show a paucity of ambition.
Paul challenged.
It was a little bit sort of deviation from English, wasn't it? Surely...
I did hear, but I understood it. So I can give him the benefit of the doubt.
Oh, that's okay.
I
Fair
understood
enough,
what he was trying to say.
Yeah, exactly.
If I have a moment to redress the balance later,
Absolutely.
Paul, I'll give you the benefit of the
That's
doubt.
fair enough.
But I'm giving it to Richard on this occasion with 4 seconds. My family tree, Richard, and don't talk as if you're drunk.
I won't.
And
But he is.
4
That's
seconds.
taking you out of your comfort zone.
Starting now.
We're all related.
Right, Paul challenge.
When do I get this benefit of the doubt? Do I get it now?
I'll show you what I do. I give you a bonus point for a lovely interruption and the wonderful joke. So we're now square. All right?
Yes, absolutely.
And with no points scored against you, but you have 3 seconds on My Family Tree, Richard, starting now.
My family tree goes all the way back to the very first amoeba.
Right. So Richard Herring was then speaking when the whistle went, gained that extra point. And Julian, we're back with you to begin. And the subject now is, a lovely Christmassy type subject. Dick Whittington. Julian, tell us something about Dick Whittington.
Here we go.
You're making up your own jokes now.
I'll give it 5 seconds.
Have you played Dick Whittington, Julian?
I'm about to tell you all about it. I'm saving myself.
Well, you tell us something about that subject in this game. 60 seconds starting now.
My performance in Dick Whittington in Plymouth last year was a triumph. It was the talk of the town. In fact, it's fair to say that my dick was on everyone's lips. Thank you very much. I hope that satisfied your need for sordid innuendo. Yes, I enjoyed...
Paul, you've challenged.
Hesitation, sir.
Yes, indeed, yes. So, Paul, you have a correct challenge.
Yeah, boy.
So you have a point for that.
Yes.
And you have 45 seconds still available. Oh, you have belch.
That used to be his catchphrase in 1956. That was your catchphrase, wasn't it?
I shouldn't drink water when I'm working. I don't know whether they're going to keep that in or not. It ran the first time.
Somebody should have kept it in.
Right. Good. You have 45 seconds still available, Paul, for Dick Whittington, starting now.
5 miles from London and still no sign of Dick. It's one of the pantomime lines that is said down through the centuries. Dan Leno, a noted Victorian clown, made a great impact in his pantomime when they were traditionally staged at the Drury Lane Theatre. Starting sometime in mid-December, often these productions would run all the way through to April. Dick Whittington, he is one of the finest figures in English history. When I look down at the list of the mayors of London, I can see many noble figures. Who can forget people I can't even remember? No one. Dick Whittington stands high amongst them all. With his favourite cat, Percy Bishop, the two of them went together and discovered Billingsgate was full of fish, which made them very happy indeed.
In this game, whoever is speaking with the whistle goes gains an extra point, and it was Paul Merton. And Jenny, we're with you to begin, and the subject is altruism. Tell us something about altruism in this game, starting now.
If I could afford it, I'd open an institute called the Eclair Academy of Performing Arts for Wayward Women. This would have classes such as showing off and sulking, and would be for those kind of girls who couldn't get on in mainstream schools but had big dreams, and there'd be pictures of my face.
Julian Challenge.
Hesitation.
There was a hesitation.
Yeah, there was.
I'm afraid. Lovely idea, Jenny. Right.
It's a great idea. I hope someone gives me some money for it.
Yes. I doubt it.
I'm prepared to match that offer.
You were going to come and teach dance, Paul.
Julian, you have a point. You have 40 seconds, and the subject is altruism, starting now.
Altruism is something to which we all aspire, but very few of us can achieve. Maybe a Buddha or a semi-demi.
Paul Challenge.
A Buddha or a semi-detached. I don't know. It was sort of a hesitation, I'm afraid.
Yeah, hesitation. Paul, you have 32 seconds. You tell us something about altruism, starting now.
If I'm to understand the word, altruism is the behaviour where you do something that's not necessarily for your own good, but for the benefit of others. If we are to look at the panel...
A repetition of if.
Oh, come on.
So I'll let it go.
All right.
I pressed by mistake, to be honest.
Right, no. Well, it actually was a correct challenge, so...
yeah, let him have it.
Let him have it. But don't do it again, please.
I don't really know what altruism is, so I don't really...
It's the opposite of what you just did.
Richard, you've got 24 seconds with Paul's help on altruism, starting now.
I do a lot of work for charity, but I don't like to talk about it.
Paul Challenge.
Repetition of I.
So if you play that game, Richard, you get hoisted in
Fair
your own
enough.
guitar. Right.
I'll take any point I can get.
Right.
So I got one.
So there we are. Correct challenge, Paul. Well listened. 20 seconds. Altruism starting now.
Noah built an ark and he said to the animals, you must come to it two by whoever's next to you. And they did. Doves, rhinos, elephants, spotted leopards, lions, tigers, geese, antelopes.
Jenny Challenge.
Is he deviating from the subject?
No, they were all on the ark, Noah's ark.
I don't know what Noah's Ark has got to do with altruism.
Well,
built an
I
ark for
imagine he was conveying that Noah was a very altruistic person. But
Yeah, exactly.
He was doing it for himself as well, not
And
just the creatures.
God told him to do it, really. Surely altruism has to come from
He had
yourself.
a cover story.
no, Jenny, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt.
Thank you, Nicholas.
And you have 5 seconds, that's all. Altruism starting now.
I like to give, also to receive, so would you give me some money?
Paul Challenge.
A repetition of give.
Yes.
Yes. He's right. Let's have an altruistic game of just a minute, should we?
It wouldn't work, Jenny. Paul, you've got in with half a second to go. But it's the rules of just a minute, and you begin now.
Cats!
I used to do a number in cabaret about the Noah's Ark, with all the animals dressed up in their
Inspired by
finery.
topical events.
Paul, you also, at the end of that round, increased your lead ahead of Richard Herring, Julian, Clary, and Jenny Eclair in that order. And Paul, we're with you to begin. Oh, Lost in Translation. That is the subject. 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
I was travelling through China about 5 or 6 years ago making a television documentary, and you see various signs written up by the roadside. One read, "Please refuse to chuck jetsam." And there was an image of a person chucking...
Julian challenge.
Oh, well, actually, it wasn't a chuck and chucking, which doesn't
Oh, that's
count,
right,
does it?
Yes, very sporting of you. It was chuck and chucking, so incorrect challenge. 46 seconds still available, Paul. Lost in Translation, starting now.
It was a film about 15 years ago starring Bill Murray, and I remember going to see it the very first weekend it came out and being rather disappointed because it was being pushed as a...
Julian challenge.
Oh, what shall I say? Repetition of being.
Good attempt, Julian, but incorrect.
Oh.
Paul, an incorrect challenge. 37 seconds. Lost in Translation, starting now. Julian challenge.
That's not allowed, surely.
No, I mean, I speak Mandarin, of course, so I can tell you that it was not Chinese. 35 seconds are still available, Julian. Tell us something about Lost in Translation, starting now.
If one of my books were translated into Japanese, I have an awful feeling that some of the finer honed innuendos may be lost in translation. And I don't like the noise coming from my right. There's a certain guffawing. If I were to whisper to...
Paul challenge.
When did you last finally hone an innuendo?
Actually, Paul, I think some of Julian's...
It is finely honed, it is, you're right. Yeah.
I think some of his innuendos are finely honed.
Absolutely.
So that people don't take offence, but they laugh.
Yes.
Because they get the inference without the vulgarity.
Absolutely.
When I'm in panto, you see, the innuendos in panto are very finely honed.
Finely honed.
Not to mention polished.
Are they?
For the darling children.
Julian, we're moving on then. Yeah. And you have a incorrect challenge, so you've got a point. 21 seconds still available. Lost in Translation, starting now.
If I was to say to Paul, I've had a hard life, whispering like under my breath, and he thought that I had said, I've got a nice wife, then that would be a sentence lost in translation, not dissimilar to Chinese whispers, which is, I know what you're thinking, but I think it comes under the general...
Oh, Jenny challenge.
Thinking.
No,
yes,
thinking and think.
Oh, sorry.
Think. No, she said I think before, and was thinking.
Sorry, what was it?
Julian, incorrect challenge. Yeah. 3 seconds available still. Lost in Translation, starting now.
When I was appearing in Shakespeare's Twelfth Night...
So Julian Clary, who was trailing a little, had a number of points then, including one for speaking as the whistle went, and therefore has leapt forward. He's catching up Paul Merton in the lead, but he's leaped ahead of Richard Herring and Jenny Eclair. And Julian, it's also your turn to begin. And the subject now is dressing gown. I'm sure you have a number. Probably... Oh, no, it isn't dressing gown. It's dressing down. Dressing gown or dressing down?
I frankly could talk for several minutes on either.
Let's have both. Let's have both.
All right. It's dressing down or dressing gown, whichever way you want to take
Dressing
it.
down in a dressing gown.
Yeah.
Right. And there are 60 seconds starting now.
When I was a station master at Turnham Green, it was my decision to decide what everyone would wear. I said, we're all dressing down from now on. I wore a pair of slacks the following day, and frankly, my authority was not in any way diminished. However, the Thursday of the...
Jenny, you challenge.
Hesitation.
Yes, there was, however.
And
right.
I've heard the story before.
That was hardly altruistic, Jenny.
I know.
Right.
I've changed.
Anyway, there we are, Jenny. 46 seconds are still available, and you tell us something now about dressing down or dressing gown starting now.
Sometimes you get a dressing down and you have to arrange your face into a position of I'm so sorry without laughing. I enjoy wearing a dressing gown most of the day because I'm quite hot, so getting put into clothes is a real bore these days. I just like to wander around my house in my dressing gown, which is a white waffle number. I also have a chrysanthemum ornamented number. 2 numbers! 2!
Right, Richard, your challenge?
2 numbers. 2 numbers.
2 numbers, yes. Richard, you've gone in on this subject. 19 seconds to go. Dressing down or dressing gown, starting now.
When I'm dressing down in my dressing gown, I like to put up the hood, which comes on top of the dressing gown, which is convenient for me because that is where my head is. It also has a little strap that goes around the middle, which I can tie up to stop my little ghoulies flying out and surprising the postman. And then I walk around in that most of the day, very happy with my...
I think you were saved by the whistle then, Richard.
I was.
You got a point for speaking as the whistle went, and you have leapt forward. You're still in 3rd place, but you've leapt, and you're 1 behind Julian, Clary, 3 ahead of Jenny Eclair, and 4 or 5 behind Paul Merton, who's in the lead. And Richard, it's your turn to begin. French bread. I'm assuming it's B-R-E-A-D, isn't it, bread? Because it's been written as B-R-E-D. Whether it means French, that means it's been bred in the French way.
Should we do both?
All right, French bread either way, 60 seconds. Starting now.
Of all the breads, I think French bread must be the best. The baguette is a wonderful construction. It's long and thin. You can break bits off. You can have it with margarine or butter. You can even put chocolate.
Jenny, challenge.
You can.
You can. Jenny, you have got 45 seconds. Tell us something about French bread. 60 seconds, starting now.
I'm not a big fan of French bread. These days, my gums won't take it. I have to soak it in milk if I'm going to eat a baguette. The other thing that happens with French bread is it goes off ever so quick. Here's a handy hint. If you have some rancid, hard, old French bread, wrap it in a damp tea towel and put it on a low light for 20 minutes. Crisp it right up. Give it a cat or something because it's really inedible. What else can you do with French bread? Make garlic bread. That's what people do, which is a sort of fancy.
Paul, challenge.
Sort of hesitation there.
Yes, there was a definite
so.
there.
Very much.
So, Paul, you've got him with 20 seconds to go on French bread, starting now. Julian, challenge.
Well, you've had your fun.
Shall I just leave the money on the mantelpiece?
Shut the door on your way out.
I will do.
Julian, 14 seconds for you on French bread, starting now.
Mais non, ce n'est pas possible that it's my turn. L'escargot is something you might enjoy with French bread. You've got to winkle them out first, and do make sure that they are deceased, because the last thing you want is to swallow.
Paul, challenge.
Well, I'm glad I interrupted at that point. Before we got to the chef's special.
So, Paul, what's your challenge with the rules of just a minute?
There was a repetition in there, but I've forgotten what it was now.
Well, that's no good, is it?
Yeah, that's no good. I can't remember.
Oh, well.
No, so I can't
Julian
remember.
has an incorrect challenge.
Yeah.
And he's got 1 second to go on French bread, starting now.
Wriggling round inside you.
So Julian, who won the last time we were all gathered together here in the Rada Theatre, has leapt forward. He's now only 2 points behind our leader, Paul Merton, and they're both leading Richard Herring and Jenny Eclair in that order. And Jenny, we're back with you to begin. The subject is interior design. 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
I'm a big fan of interior design because I truthfully believe one's environment affects your health and mental well-being. My style of interior design is minimal with a twist, meaning it's actually really messy, which is unfortunate because it would look a lot better if I tidied the gaff up. I'm very good with colour. At the moment, I'm experimenting with a sort of purple which I could only describe as varicose vein, teamed with lime, which I...
Paul challenged.
There was a hesitation.
Yes, there was a definite there. So, Paul, you've got in on interior design, and there are 29 seconds still available, starting now.
If we look at the latter films of Buster Keaton's silent career, the movie he made at MG Ditto was designed by a magnificent designer called Cecil Newman, and he created the most beautiful Art Deco sets which stood out from...
Julian challenged.
Well, you're talking about set design, not interior design.
Oh, yes.
You see, he could have designed a set design which was an interior design.
Yeah.
No, but you can't apply for a job if you are a set designer. If you are an interior designer, you can't just turn up at MGM and say, "Oh, I'm here to have a go at the set." It's a completely different talent.
No, but the other way around, if you're a set designer, you will have to create an interior design, wouldn't you?
Yes.
Start the car.
Well, I have these fine judgments to make, and
The
sometimes...
meeting has been running for 20 minutes.
Right. No, I think I give you the benefit of the doubt, Paul, and you keep the subject with 14 seconds to go. Interior design starting now.
William Morris came up with a marvellous design for the interior of houses. He called it the arts and craft movement, and it originated back in around 1895, and people suddenly saw in their homes the chance...
Oh, wait a minute, no. Jenny challenged just before the whistle. What was it, Jenny?
Homes.
Homes?
2 homes.
Oh, that's right.
Are you sure?
Yes, I'm absolutely positive.
So, Jenny, you've got him with half a second to go. No, a quarter of a second to go. On interior design starting now.
My partner is the best.
Right. And so, we're moving into the final round. Oh, you're a lovely audience. So, Richard Herring and Jenny Eclair are equal in third place, and they're 3 or 4 points behind Julian Clary. But just a few points ahead of him is Paul Merton, who's in the lead at the moment. And Paul, it's also your turn to begin. And the subject is explaining a joke. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
I once repeated the old joke, what does a Greek earn? About £50 a week. And the woman I was trying to explain this story to said, what? To rent? I said, no, it's not actually a vase that you have for a period of 7 days. It's more a pun on the word U-R-N, spelt E-A-R-N, although pronounced that... This is how you explain a joke, by the way.
Richard, you challenged.
Well, just because he did it earlier, it's a repetition of R in the U-R-N and E-A-R-N.
Well,
I think you would find I was returning your own volley back to you at the time.
Right. Well, depending on how keen you are, he hasn't played it quite so often.
Exactly.
So he has to work very hard for his points.
Yeah.
And anyway, it's a correct challenge. So you have the subject, Richard. You have 38 seconds explaining a joke starting now.
Explaining a joke does tend to ruin it. It's like putting a frog in a blender. You can't put the pizzas back together again. My dog has no nose. How does he smell? He can't. He doesn't have that particular part of his body for doing that task. What do you mean by that? Well, it's sort of a joke about... thank you.
Julian challenge.
Oh, there must have been
something.
Repetition. There was a deviation and a repetition, and
I could hear a gun being cocked in the back row.
Well,
at least I think it was a gun. Honing entendres. It's double-barreled from where I'm sitting.
well, actually, Julian, he wasn't deviating. No. He might have repeated something, but unless you can tell me what he repeated, I have to leave it with Richard.
Yeah.
Please don't.
Go on, Richard.
Okay.
You've still got the subject. 19 seconds explaining a joke starting now.
My wife's just been to the West Indies. Jamaica? Yes, that's right. That is where she went. That is a very poor joke. Which I'm just going to get round to explaining.
That is.
Jenny, 13 seconds are still available. Tell us
How
something.
many?
13, that's all. explaining a joke starting now.
I never need to explain my jokes because they're so hilarious, people get them immediately and just laugh themselves silly. No one has ever said to me whilst on stage, "Excuse me a moment."
So Jenny Eclair was in Speakers of Whistle when gained that extra point, and she had been trailing a little, but now she's leapt forward. She's still in third place, but she's leapt alongside Richard Herring, which is a very nice place to be, and they're both equal in third place, 2 points behind Julian Clary, who won the last time this group was together, and he is 3 or 4 points behind our winner, who is Paul Merton. We do hope you have enjoyed this edition of Just a Minute. And then it remains me to say thank you to these 4 fine players of the game, Paul Merton, Julian Clary, Richard Herring and Jenny Eclair. I thank Trudy Stevens, who's helped me with the score and blown her whistle with such aplomb when the 60 seconds elapsed. We thank our producer, Talusha Galani. We're indebted to the man who created this amazing game, Ian Messiter. And we're indebted to this lovely audience here at the Rada Theatre, who cheered us on our way magnificently. From our audience, from me, Nicholas Parsons, and the team, thank you. Tune in again the same time when we play Just a Minute! Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Hello, my name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners from around the world, but also to welcome to the programme 4 talented, distinguished, humorous performers who are going to show their skill with words and language as they try and speak on the subject that I give them, and they do that without hesitation, repetition or deviation. And they are seated on my right, Paul Merton and Sheila Hancock, and seated on my left, Marcus Brigstocke and Josie Lawrence. Please welcome all 4 of them. Beside me sits Sharon Leonard, who's going to help me keep the score and blow a whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And this particular edition of Just a Minute is coming from the Radio Theatre in the heart of that wonderful establishment, Broadcasting House. And we're going to begin the show with Sheila Hancock. Who better? Sheila, the subject here is escaping from an awful party. Will you tell us something about that subject in this game starting now?
I hate all parties. To me, they are always awful. The minute I arrive, I'm trying to think of an excuse to leave, which actually, as you get older, becomes increasingly easy because you can be absolutely rude as you like. You say, "I'm terribly sorry, I'm very old, I have to go." Or, as I say to my children, "You are boring me to death, I'm off." The great advantage is that it gives them something to talk about when you leave, especially if, like me, occasionally journalists say I am a national treasure. When I leave, they are saying, "What a bitch she is. My national treasure."
Sharon.
Sadly, repetition of national
Yes.
treasure. Yes. Although there was a bitch in between.
Oh, we can't have too much of the national treasure. But Sheila, lovely. What a wonderful way to start the show. So you have a point for a correct challenge, of course, in this game, and you take over the subject, and there are 15 seconds available, escaping from an awful party, starting now.
Crufts throw the most terrible parties. Bitches everywhere. Dogs in the corner. Dreadful behaviour. I always find that these sort of awful...
Josie challenge.
Sorry, wrong. Awful's in the title, isn't it?
No, but it was hesitation.
Yes, it was hesitation.
Well, Josie, as I hadn't said anything between your first and second challenge, I can accept the second challenge.
Thank you. I love my Sheila. She's a damn fine bitch.
I'm inclined to give a bonus point for that, but it might be misinterpreted. But you get a point for a correct challenge, Josie. and you take over the subject of escaping from an awful party. And there are 5 seconds available starting now.
I always find the best way is to look down my jumper and say, oh no, me rash has come back again.
In this game, whoever is speaking as the whistle goes gains an extra point, and this occasion was Josie Lawrence, so she's naturally out in the lead at the end of the round. Marcus Brigstocke, we'd like you to begin the next round. A very interesting academic one, the International Dateline. I'm sure you've crossed it once or twice. Tell us something about it in this game, starting now.
The International Dateline is what Nicholas calls every time he needs a new Filipino to go out with. But in this particular instance, I'm going to discuss the other international dateline, which we all know, of course, is a trail of sweet, dainty fruits laid from Arabia all the way across the neighbouring countries, which are followed, eaten by the people who find those sweet meats so tender and...
Sheila Jones.
Gosh, I don't want the subject, but he was hesitating.
Yeah,
and he did
well,
say
you get a
sweet
point,
twice.
Sheila, so it's best to take it, get your point, move on. And 37 seconds available, the International Dateline starting now.
I'm very interested that you mentioned an international dateline that Nick goes for Filipinos. Do they also provide young men for people like me? Because if so, after the programme, I'd like to get the number or website so that I can contact it. The International Dateline, I believe, is a line through the middle of the world, either side of which the dates change. Goodness only knows who decided where this line should be, or whether it stays there the whole time or constantly moves. I don't know, but I know that when I am in that...
Paul, you challenge.
Repetition of no.
Yes.
Sadly.
And unfortunately, you've got him with 2 seconds to go. But those are the rules of the game. And Paul, you have 2 seconds on the International Dateline starting now.
From Madagascar to Tooting, you will find an almost direct...
So Paul Merton was speaking then as the whistle went. He gained that extra point. He's taken the lead now at the end of that round. Josie Lawrence would like you to begin the next round. And the subject is something we have all the time on our televisions now. Cookery programmes. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
I enjoy watching cookery programmes, although I'm not a good cook. I tend to taste the recipes through the screen in kind of magical osmosis. Way, way back, though, there was Fanny. Oh, I did it.
Yes, yes. 48 seconds, Paul, and another point to you for a correct challenge. Cookery programmes starting now.
One of the first television chefs was a bearded fat gentleman called Philip Harbin. He used to...
And Sheila, you challenge first.
he's hesitating.
Yes. 42 seconds, Sheila. Tell us something about cookery programmes starting now.
I am the worst cook in the world, but I avidly watch cookery programmes. I'm convinced I can do cakes as good as Mary Berry if I really tried, but I don't, because I know that it'll end up with a pile of flour on the floor and butter in my hair and me in a filthy mood. There was a wonderful red-headed woman who had a husband called Johnny, who she snapped at all the time. That was the first one I remember, and she invented a marvellous chocolate thing which I still make. It's cold, you put it in the fridge, it's a mixture of biscuits and treacle and...
Marcus challenge.
I wouldn't normally on an and, but because it was a list.
No, but
the
hesitation.
And. Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah.
It sounds delicious, though.
Oh, and Marcus, you've got him with 2 seconds to go.
Oh, I keep doing that.
Oh, it doesn't matter. Those are the rules of the game. So, Marcus, you have 2...
No, I mean, I keep stopping 2 seconds before the end.
But you're still doing very well, Sheila. You've got quite
You'd be great on a show called Just 58 Seconds.
True. Shall we
Marcus,
invent it?
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll suggest it to the BBC.
Just 58.
Just 58.
Cookery programmes with you, Marcus. 2 seconds, starting now.
And I hope all your donuts look like Fanny's, is what Johnny...
Yes,
That
Marcus.
was her name, Fanny Craddock.
Fanny Craddock,
Yes.
Yeah.
And you want to remind them of that story about
I should, yeah, for anyone for whom that didn't make sense. Fanny Craddock had cooked donuts, and you're all looking at me going, yes, we know. She had cooked donuts, and Johnny, who was always slightly drunk at the end of the programme, looked right into the camera and said, probably the greatest sentence ever uttered on television. They're actually harder to bake like that than you might imagine.
The next subject is bedside manner, and Paul, it's your turn to begin, and you start now.
Bedside manner, a good bedside manner, is absolutely crucial. When I was in hospital in 1987, a doctor came to me and he said, I suppose you realise you nearly died last night. And I looked at him in astonishment. I felt a wave of shock engulf my body and I fell into a deep, unconscious trance. And that's what a good bedside manner is the opposite of. You should be able to say to your patient, look at you. You get out of that bed now. You've got the strength of 1,000 men. You have no reason to be lying prone, having no diseases about your brain. Get out there, face the world, grab it by the collar and say, my name is Mavis Nicholson.
A deserved round of applause, but who is Mavis Nicholson?
Oh, she's been going for years.
Wonderful chat show.
Yeah.
So what was your challenge?
I can't remember.
No.
I was just worried about him. He looked as though he was having a fit. It was a sort of reflex action because he looked ill.
Oh, yeah.
And also, it isn't a
tell our
bedside manner
listeners,
for
he
somebody
did-
to
he looked-
shout at you like that, darling.
Well, I'm saying that's the opposite of a bedside manner. Isn't it? It could be a bad bedside manner.
No, you said a bedside manner was somebody
I'd
who
love to be
didn't
able to
do
talk
that.
to you more about this.
Sheila, I must have a challenge from you, darling.
Well...
You can't remember.
Hesitation. No, it wasn't.
No, he didn't hesitate.
No.
He definitely didn't hesitate.
No.
He
Give
might
him a point.
He might have deviated a bit, but he didn't hesitate. So, Paul, it's really an incorrect challenge.
Yep.
You can go again if you want to. With 26 seconds.
How many?
26.
Really?
Have you got the answer? You've got enough
He
adrenaline
went for at least 2 minutes.
That's the joy of just a minute.
It seems like
2
forever.
minutes, yes. People don't realise how quick a minute goes, but you try and speak without hesitation, repetition, or deviation for a minute, and you'll realise how difficult it is and how talented these people are. Paul, we're back with you. 26 seconds. Bedside manner, starting now.
As the surgeon stood beside a dying patient, he looked down into his eyes and said, my dear boy, I want you to know that life isn't just about chasing dreams and trying to assert goals which we'll never be able to reach. It's also about love, tuning into the universal vibe, embracing each other as living, sentient beings. And is that your 5 on the mantelpiece? And with that, he went out of the window and I never saw him again.
I don't think that was another good example of bedside manner, but it certainly kept you going. And we enjoyed it, Paul. And you deservedly got another point for speaking as the whistle went. And you've increased your lead at the end of the round of the other 3, who are all equal in second place. Oh, Sheila, I don't know why they've given this one to you. But talk on the subject. It's called growing a beard.
Dear.
I think they should have given it to you, Marcus. But anyway, Sheila, they've been written down for you, but you can talk on the subject. 60 seconds, starting now.
Well, I'm always suspicious of you.
Paul, challenge.
I thought I'd challenge after 2 seconds so Sheila could then speak for 58 seconds. How's the whistle go?
Thank you.
That's such a clever interruption. We give you a bonus point for that, Paul. But Sheila, you were interrupted, so you get a point, and you still have 59 seconds, actually, Paul.
Oh, 1 second from the end.
Sheila, growing a beard, starting now.
I had daughters, so when I had a grandson, it was a novel experience to me. And just recently, that extraordinary thing happened when literally overnight he turned from my little boy into a man with bristles coming out of his chin and a deep voice and 6 foot tall. It's very odd.
Overnight? Overnight?
I was... that's kind of hyperbole.
He shot up to 6 foot tall overnight.
It seemed like that. It's a hyperbole. It's a kind of literary phrase.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
I think that's what she was trying to convey, Paul.
Yeah.
And she wasn't talking literally. She made it quite clear.
Yeah.
That was the impression she had. So a point, an incorrect challenge, Sheila.
How
you have
long?
another point. Tell us a bit more about this boy. Growing a beard.
How many? How long?
35.
Oh, you're joking.
I want Marcus to get this subject. 35 seconds, starting now.
I don't like men with beards. What are they trying to hide?
Marcus challenged.
Deviation from common courtesy. You're a national treasure, you bitch.
And Marcus, you had a challenge
Beard.
which didn't justify a point. And so Sheila's still got the subject.
All right.
32 seconds, growing a beard, starting now.
If I didn't have a pair of tweezers, it's very likely that I would grow a beard. And if I did, I would go for a goatee or one of those very shaggy things down to my waist, which I would team with very long hair, done back in a pigtail. Don't you loathe men that do that? Hair back in a pigtail. Oh!
Josie challenged.
Oh, back in a pigtail.
Back
yes.
in a pigtail, yes. Josie, a correct challenge. You're growing a beard,
Good
10
luck.
seconds. Gosh, all the women have had this subject. 10 seconds, starting now.
I must admit, I like a man who's a bit of a bear. Marcus aside, my first true love has to be Brian Blessed. I absolutely adore that.
So Josie Lawrence, the then Speaker of the Whistle, went and gained that extra point for doing so, and she's now moved into second place behind Paul Merton, and she's one ahead of Sheila, Hancock and Marcus Brigstocke. Marcus, we're back with you to begin, and the subject is skinny jeans.
Right.
Tell us something about skinny jeans in this game, starting now.
I have not inherited skinny genes from either of my parents, both of whom are plump and have voracious appetites. I don't like the sort of people who wear skinny jeans because they go into coffee shops and say, I'd like a skinny latte with my skinny jeans to go with my skinny girlfriend, and then I'll drive away in an enormous car for some reason. They are vile as far as I'm concerned. Occasionally I go into a clothes shop.
Sheila, Hancock,
Well, it's
challenge.
sort of impolite. I wear skinny jeans.
No.
I mean, you
Well, I
told me
didn't
I was
mean
in...
you.
Well, I know, but I didn't mean you when I talked about beards.
So what's your
Oh,
challenge
yes.
within the rules of just a minute?
In the rules of just a minute... well, in the rules of 58 seconds, it's deviation. Deviation.
No, it wasn't.
No.
He did actually repeat something, but you didn't spot it, my darling.
What was that?
Going into.
Ah.
Yes.
Well, I went in twice.
But anyway, so Sheila hasn't had a correct challenge, so you get a point for that, Marcus, and you have 34 seconds more to tell us about skinny jeans, starting now.
Why don't clothes shops just have an area marked normal for people who aren't freaks? Skinny jeans, tapered, boot cut, carrot fit and all the rest of it. It's nonsense. All I want is a decent pair of trousers that I can fit my massive legs into. Skinny jeans look like they're going to snap when they have somebody's leg inside them, and that makes me deeply suspicious and rather inclined to see whether I can be the person who can bring that about, which isn't strictly legal or indeed fair, but I'm so irritated by these damn things that I can't quite help myself.
So Marcus Brigstocke started with the subject. He was interrupted incorrectly, and he kept going till the whistle went, so he gained 2 points in that round. He's now equal in third place with Sheila Hancock, 1 point only behind Josie, and 3 points behind our leader, Paul Merton. That is the situation. We move into the next round with Josie to start, and the subject, Josie, is Greek tragedy. Can you tell us something about Greek tragedy in this game, starting now?
I loved doing Greek tragedy at school. The theatre of Dionysus, ancient Greece. They are packing them in there. The actors walk on wearing platform boots to make them look larger than life, and huge masks with mouthpieces so that their voices boom out. My favourite Greek tragedy was by Sophocles, Oedipus. Imagine the scene. Oh, I love you, but you are my son. No, mother, I shall gouge out mine eyes so I cannot see and wander the country.
Sheila, you challenge first.
Well, I think it's deviation because it isn't the son whose eyes are gouged out, it's the father, isn't it? Isn't it Oedipus himself whose eyes are gouged out?
Well, there's always trouble for somebody, isn't there?
I'm sorry, no. It's surely
The son
Oedipus.
was Oedipus.
Oedipus gouges his eyes out.
Yes, but she said the son said, "I'll gouge my eyes out."
Once
so
he
I-
discovers he's with the mother.
Jeremy Kyle Show, 500 BC.
Somebody look it up on an iPad.
Yeah, Sheila, Josie, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt.
Oh, no.
Do I get a point as well? Because
Yes,
I know I'm
just,
right.
yes,
Just 58. It's just 58.
Because we love you, Sheila, yeah, you can give her a bonus point then. So, 21 seconds still available, Josie, on Greek tragedy, starting now.
My favourite Greek tragedy has to be...
Sheila, challenge.
Your favourite Greek tragedy was Sophocles' Oedipus.
You said it in my
and
grave.
You said it
Yes, I
before.
did. I've said it twice.
Yeah, and that's repetition.
Yes, I've got two favourites, you see.
And yes. What's your other one?
Medea.
Yeah. Was that Sophocles?
No.
I don't think so, no. That's Dionysius, wasn't it? No, that was the other one. Euripides.
Euripides.
Yes.
No.
No, that's frogs.
Euripides.
Sheila, 18 seconds for you. Correct challenge. Greek tragedy starting now.
Many years ago, I went to Epidaurus, which is the theatre where all these marvellous Greek tragedies took place. And I offered my St. Joan, which was a bit of a tragedy, but it was an amazing experience. This huge place. That was much.
So
of it.
huge, there was a bit of a hesitation before the place.
Ever such a little one.
Ever such a little one.
Tiny.
And as there's only 1 second to go, I think it would be
Tricky,
very
isn't it?
unfair. And Sheila does work to 58
went
seconds as we
huge.
know.
I went huge place.
Yes,
That's
right.
not really a hesitation.
And I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt, Sheila. And if I can redress the balance sometime later...
Yeah,
too,
no,
I'll say,
I
well,
know.
right.
You're very fair, Nicholas. You always have been.
And 1 second less for you, Sheila. Greek tragedy starting now.
You have to wear masks.
I must say, standing in some of those Greek amphitheatres, it's absolutely amazing, like the one you mentioned, because they've done it so well. The sound is way up there at the back,
perfect, yeah.
but they can get the voice to carry to the back. Was
They
it?
built a
Design of
lovely
that.
theatre, but they can't run an economy, can they, really? I mean, if only the person in the amphitheatre had shouted, "Pay your taxes!"
I'll give her a situation at the end of that round, because Sheila Hancock got an extra point. Oh, she's now in the lead with Paul Merton. But she's only 1 point ahead of Josie Lawrence and 3 points ahead of Marcus Brigstocke. And Paul Merton, we're back with you to begin. And the subject now is to cut a long story short. 60 seconds on the subject starting now.
The end.
Marcus, you challenge first.
Well, only because it made me laugh. It's a hesitation
Well, it says
afterwards,
hesitate.
I suppose.
But as I think it was such a clever ploy, I think you should get a bonus point for that, don't you,
I
audience?
agree.
But Marcus, you get a point because it was correct challenge, and you take over to cut a long story short. 59 seconds starting now.
With the exception of my esteemed colleague and very funny man, Paul Merton, most people who claim they're going to cut a long story short never do. It's more of a warning that they're going to keep a long story long and a tedious one just as it is. However...
Sheila,
It
challenge.
was a repetition of long.
Oh, it's on,
Yes.
it's on the subject.
But long is on the
Cut
card.
a long story short.
A long
Oh,
story
is it?
short.
Long.
So you can repeat
long
either
story
the
short,
subject or
say it, yeah.
individual words.
Oh, I'm glad because I don't want the subject.
So Marcus, another point to you. 46 seconds are still available to cut a long story short starting now.
Well, rather like Sheila, I was hoping that this long story might be cut short by a valid interruption by the buzzer, because I have nothing more to say on this. However, I've still got the subject, so on we romp. To cut a long story short is impossible if you're me. I want to talk to you about the most extraordinary thing that didn't happen to me. And here it is. I was on my way here, and a gentleman with a newspaper came over and belted me about the face and legs with it. Well, you'll never guess what happened next. I had no choice whatsoever but to catch a pigeon and fling it straight into his guts. He was livid.
Paul, challenge.
Well, deviation, he's not cutting a long story short. He's making a short story long.
You've no idea how long the original version of that is. I didn't even tell you what kind of newspaper it was.
Well, it's longer than real time at the moment.
Do you know, earlier on I said that I gave someone else the benefit of the doubt against you, Marcus.
Yes.
So I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt against Paul on this occasion. You have 7 seconds still to cut a long story short, starting now.
Anyway, it all worked itself out in the end. Turns out it was a friend of my uncle's. Extraordinary thing. I didn't expect to run into him on the way here, I can tell you that much.
So Marcus Brigstocke, speaking as the whistle went, again the extra point for doing so, other points in the round, he has leapt forward. And I've had a message that we're now going to move into the final round, with Josie Lawrence trailing in third place, only just 1 point behind Sheila Hancock. And she's 1 point behind our joint leaders, Paul Merton and Marcus Brigstocke. It's all to play for as we move forward into this exciting, dramatic game of Just a Minute. And Sheila Hancock, we're back with you to begin. The subject is a scapegoat. Sheila, tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
There's a wonderful picture by Holman Hunt, one of the pre-Raphaelites, called The Scapegoat, which is a picture of...
Oh, Josie challenge.
Oh, yes.
Picture twice.
Yeah.
Right. Well, let's hear from you on a scapegoat, Josie. 51 seconds, starting now.
Well, what are we going to do, Roger? I don't know, Tarquin. Why don't we blame Kevin in accounts? Go and slip this paper into his in tray. So that's how little Kev became the scapegoat, putting the blame on someone who is completely innocent. In the olden times, the biblical era, there was a real goat used to put all the blame on and push out of...
Oh, Sheila challenged.
Blame.
Blame, yes. Too much blame there.
I didn't breathe then.
I know, and you did very well. And your gesticulations were brilliant. We're back in ancient Greek tragedy. 22 seconds available for you, Sheila. Back again with you. A scapegoat, starting now.
To continue with the religious story, they used to push the animal into the desert with a red cloth on its head, and it had all the sins of the area in its body. If the cloth...
Paul challenged.
Sadly, repetition of cloth.
Yes, at the cloth there. Gosh, isn't this an intellectual show? Aren't you lucky? Right.
True,
8 seconds, Paul, on a scapegoat, starting now.
As the poor, tethered creature bleated for its life in the midday sun, the sweat pouring off its brow, the French lieutenant looked down at it and placed...
Well, we reached the end, and I always say it's not the points that are so important, but the quality that the players give to the show. And what we have here is a very fair... It's almost equal. Not quite, though, because... but a very interesting final result. Josie Lawrence, Marcus Brigstocke and Sheila Hancock are all equal in second place, but only 2 points behind Paul Merton. So we say, Paul, you're the winner. We do hope you've enjoyed this edition of Just a Minute, and it only remains for me to say thank you to these fine players of the game, Marcus Brigstocke, Josie Lawrence, Sheila Hancock, Paul Merton. I thank Sharon Leonard, who's helped me with the score, blown her whistle so delicately. We are grateful to our producer, to Lucia Gilani. We're indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game. And we're very grateful to this lovely audience here in the Radio Theatre, who've cheered us on our way magnificently. From their audience, from me, Nicholas Parsons, and the team, goodbye. Tune in again the next time we play Just a Minute!
And next week at the same time, Nicholas will be joined by Jason Manford, Paul Merton, Graham Norton and Sue Perkins.
Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Hello, my name is Nicholas Parsons, And as the minute waltz fades away once more, it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in this country, but around the world. But to welcome to the programme 4 talented, exciting performers who are going to show off their skill with words and language as they try and speak on the subject I give them, and they do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviation. And those 4 are, seated on my right, Paul Merton and Jason Manford, and seated on my left, Graham Norton and Sue Perkins. Please welcome all 4 of them. Beside me sits Sharon Leonard, who's going to help me with the score. She'll blow a whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And this particular edition of Just a Minute is coming from the Radio Theatre in the heart of Broadcasting House in the West 1 district of London. And we're going to begin the show this week with Sue Perkins, who better, and Sue, the subject here, Paris in the spring. What a lovely thought. Oh, they're all so... You all want to be there, don't you? Oh, you couldn't care less, it's all right. That's the subject, Sue. 60 seconds, talk on it, starting now.
Ah, Paris in the spring. I've never been.
Well done. That pause deserves a bonus point almost. But Graham, you challenge first.
Well, it's more of a stop than a pause. Hesitation. We'll call it hesitation.
I hope you feel it was worth it. You got a wonderful reaction there. You get a point for us for a correct challenge. 56 seconds are available. Paris in the spring, starting now.
Paris in the spring, of course, made famous by the beautiful song I Love Paris in the Springtime, written by Cole Porter. Because there hasn't been a buzzer, I'm assuming I'm correct in saying I wasn't entirely sure.
Paul, you challenge.
Yes, you're correct.
Right. So you're correct, but you don't get any points, extra points for that, but you keep the subject.
It was an incorrect challenge.
You are correct.
Oh, okay.
So what I should do, actually, to be utterly fair, we enjoyed Paul's interruption, so we give him a bonus point for his joke. And Sue, you get a bonus point.
Do I?
Yes, you do.
I love this new you.
A bonus point for what you did earlier on when you paused and gave it away. And Graham,
It's
you
better
got
now
this.
it's been deconstructed, isn't it?
Another point to you, Graham, because you were interrupted and it was incorrect. And the subject is Paris in the... What are you doodling?
I don't mean to interrupt, Nicholas, but I mean, I've done nothing wrong, and I've been...
Jason, a bonus point as well.
I mean, I have travelled the furthest to be here.
Yes.
I don't live in London.
On a pure mileage allowance, he deserves a point.
So they've all got points in that round, which is utterly fair, isn't it?
That's worked out well, hasn't it?
Yeah. And you get a... Keep the subject. 40 seconds still available. Paris in the spring, starting now.
I've been to Paris in the spring, seriously. And when I was there, I thought I might go to see an exhibition. And I was walking down the Champs-Élysées, the main street. And I thought I could see...
Jason challenge.
No, I didn't.
I think it was mine.
Your light came on, Jason.
Yes. Did I? Repetition of thought.
I think it was the repetition of thought.
Yes. And I think there was a little thought transference went on that side of the stage, wasn't it? Right, yes.
I still... Okay. I love this game.
Right. So, Jason, you have a correct challenge, and you have 27 seconds to tell us something about Paris in the spring, starting now.
Well, I've also never been to Paris, either in the spring or any other season. I've been to Blackpool in the winter. I've been to Rotherham.
Paul challenge.
Been to, repetition of been to.
Been
I've never
to, been to.
Paris. Yes.
Oh. Just a minute, he gave him the subject.
Give with one, take with the other.
Right. So, Paul, a correct challenge. 20 seconds still available. Paris in the spring, starting now.
In the Tony Hancock film The Rebel, there's some beautiful sequences shot in Paris in the spring. We see the Eiffel Tower against a clear blue sky, white clouds scurrying across...
Jason challenge.
There was a hesitation. There was a couple, actually. But there was one on...
where were they?
Just now. Just did it a second ago.
Do you think that white cloud sky...
There's clouds...
I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt. As he's only played the game once before.
Clouds... I'm sure there was a...
I'm not doing Jack Douglas.
Clouds...
Alfred B. Titmus.
I can't do it much more, Jason, but you got it this time. 8 seconds. Paris in the spring, starting now.
Hesitation.
Jason, the way we play the game is I give you the subject, give you a moment to think, and I say, and your time starts
now, and I went...
No, you didn't. You went...
There's no breathing.
Okay, no breathing.
You're breathing.
Good to know.
We won't score on that. Take the breath in, and when I say
breathe
now,
first.
go.
Right, you got to get your breath right. Okay, wow, it's harsh, this game.
7 seconds.
Okay.
Paris in the spring, and you start now.
Paris in the spring is all right if you're a tourist. I imagine you're on holiday, having a lovely time with your family or a loved one, very romantic. If you live there and you're a Parisian, I imagine it's like any other.
So Jason Manford was then speaking as the whistle went and gained that extra point for doing so. And he's only played the game once before.
As if you couldn't tell.
But you've now taken a strong lead over all the others. Graham, we'd like you to begin the next round. The subject is Wolverhampton in November. Right. I don't think it's a song, but I've been to Wolverhampton in November because I've done pantomime up there. And it's quite a nice place, Wolverhampton, actually.
Do you want to talk for 60 seconds about it?
No, I'd rather you did and I judged. Wolverhampton, November, 60 seconds, Graham, starting now.
Wolverhampton in November, I imagine, is quite similar to Wolverhampton in any other month of the year. Even the football team are called Wanderers because they don't want to be there. They long for the away games. Wolverhampton, grey, nondescript hole somewhere in Britain. I couldn't find it on a map.
Jason, you say.
Well, I'm just going to interrupt because they were City of Culture about 12 years ago, so it seems a bit harsh. I don't know if
I've never been there, I don't know.
Deviation. When it's not.
No, it's a lovely place.
Yes.
Yeah. And they were wonderful.
You said it was quite nice.
You said it was a grey hole.
Yes, in fairness, yes.
I said in November
I
it was
overstated
quite nice.
it.
And there were lovely audiences at the Grand Theatre there. They're lovely, warm, generous people in Wolverhampton. Yeah. Well, Wolverhampton, it's all right for you, Jason. You've got Wolverhampton and you've got...
Regular listeners may be wondering why we're coming from Johannesburg.
35 seconds from Wolverhampton. And it's
I think this is worse than the grey hole. Do we think...
I don't think it's cheering them up.
No.
Getting laughs. I don't usually get laughs when I don't do funny material. 35 seconds, Jason, with you. Wolverhampton in November, starting now.
Wolverhampton in November is like Wolverhampton any other time of the year, as Graham mentioned. I would definitely love to see Norton...
Sue challenge.
Repetition of Graham's opening conceit.
But he can do that.
He can do that, though. I'm sure I've heard that before.
Repeat other people's material.
It's true.
What's your challenge, then?
I'm withdrawing it.
But you didn't pick him up on the air. Yeah. 26 seconds for you, Jason, still to continue. Wolverhampton in November, starting now.
I'm definitely looking forward to...
Hesitation.
Was there?
There was a hesitation.
Yeah, I must be missing it, sorry.
Yes, you are.
Jason, this is the last time I'm going to do it.
I'm sorry. Just tell me where it is and I won't do it, I promise.
The last time I'm going to do this.
So you say your time starts now, and then I've got to start before you finish the word now.
No.
That is safest.
As I say, and your time starts, you take your breath, and I say, now go.
Okay, right. No.
Right. 25 seconds, Wolverhampton in November, and your time starts now.
Wolverhampton in November.
Paul, your challenge.
Deviation.
Why?
He didn't hesitate.
Give Paul a bonus point. We love that interruption. Right. Jason, you've still got the subject. Wolverhampton in November. 23 seconds starting
23 seconds.
now.
Wolverhampton in November. I'm certainly looking forward to Graham Norton on tour.
Sue challenge.
Repetition of Graham.
Yes, you mentioned Graham before.
Oh, earlier. Sorry. I meant the TV version.
No. Sue, you've got him with the correct challenge in 19 seconds. You tell us something about Wolverhampton in November, starting now.
Remember remember when Anne Robinson attacked the Welsh? That same fate is coming for Graham Norton, who erstwhile described Wolverhampton as a grey hole. Even now, the West Midlanders...
Graham challenged.
I can't believe you're perpetuating that myth. Wolverhampton's lovely. I recently bought a house there.
So what's your challenge when the rules of just a minute?
Well, just deviation from reality. Wolverhampton is a gorgeous place. It won Britain in Bloom last year.
It wasn't, that was Cheltenham.
I love that you know that.
Well, a man who loves flowers...
Somebody's got to defend Wolverhampton from Graham, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Right now. No, I think he's right. You can't denigrate Wolverhampton.
Yes, Sue, come on. I mean, that was pretty harsh what you said.
Yeah.
Did you call it a grey hole?
Yeah.
That's not right, Sue.
I know, house prices will tumble now, and I know you have a mansion there,
Yes,
don't you?
I do,
Near
yes.
Dudley, I seem to remember.
So, Graham, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt.
Thank you.
So you have the subject. And 11 seconds available. Wolverhampton in November, starting now.
Wolverhampton, a charming market town, famous for its cheese and local produce. I love it there.
Graham challenged. You challenged yourself, Graham.
Did I?
Yes.
You're thinking of Ludlow.
So, Graham, what was your challenge?
I just wanted to stop and say how well I was doing. I felt, come on.
Well, all right,
let's-
I'll give you the benefit of the doubt and say you've got a correct challenge.
Yeah.
You get a point for that. And you've got 3 seconds. Wolverhampton in November, starting now.
Wolverhampton in November, October, December, January, February, March.
So Graham Norton was then speaking as a whistle when again that extra point. He's leapt forward. He's 1 point behind our leader, Jason Manford. And Sue, your turn to begin. And the subject is domestic bliss. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
Everyone thinks when they consider domestic bliss, that classic tableau of a man with pipe and slippers and a woman doing his very bidding. Things have changed now. I'd be hard-pressed to work out what my own particular perfect scenario would be in the home. I imagine I'd be doing very little and suddenly garnering an enormous income. So banking for me, everyone. Perhaps a fat cat working for Starbucks, but who knows? I would have an enormous amount of time to spend in the lounge, watching innumerable hours of daytime television. Anything apart from loose women. Because frankly, politically, they don't sit well with me. The hang 'em high and flogging's too good for them doesn't work when you're retirement and...
Jason Challis.
Oh, deviation from domestic bliss. Talking about loose women.
I think it's a delightful midday show.
All right, sorry about that. I'll withdraw it. I'll withdraw it then.
What's your challenge?
I've not got one now.
You didn't have one?
No, taking it back.
You're
I
just
thought there
giving
was
me-
deviation from domestic bliss by talking about the intricacies of loose women and the political stance of the women on that show. That was my.
It's a bit
point.
deep.
I don't know. Maybe I was wrong.
It's a bit deep, isn't it?
I don't know. Maybe.
It got very Radio 4 just then.
Yes. I'm new. I'm sorry.
I think I should give you the benefit of the doubt, Jason.
Oh, cool. Oh, lovely.
21 seconds starting now.
Mum and Dad are a lovely partnership. Dad is a house husband. I have got 2 dads, though, so is that... I was talking about Malcolm.
It doesn't matter.
In any
just
other
call him
context
Dad, but-
apart from just a minute, that would be a beautiful thing.
So, Paul, the correct
sorry
challenge.
about that.
Okay.
I spilt my water everywhere on the frustration of that.
I just explained to our listeners that loud noise was Jason banging the table in frustration.
Frustrating.
And he upset his water of it.
Sorry about that. I played too many TV panel shows. That's what's happened. I'm
So
expecting
17 seconds for you, Paul, on domestic bliss starting now.
I remembered my wife when I came home one night from the 4:55 from Paddington. There she...
Graham challenge.
Should we call an ambulance? I'm sorry.
I'm auditioning for the new Dickens adaptation.
I've just seen those ads and I suddenly thought, I think this is when you're supposed to react.
Yes. We do something to the soundtrack of Staying Alive at this point, don't we?
Well, I haven't got
We
my
don't
own
have to kiss him. We
defibrillator.
don't have to kiss him. I know that. We don't have to kiss him
Vinnie
anymore.
Jones turns up and we sing Staying Alive.
Graham, we enjoyed your interruption. I'm going to give you a bonus point for that, because it was good. But he wasn't actually deviating from any of the rules of just a minute, even though his voice was devious. And domestic bliss is still with you, Paul, 11 seconds starting now.
There is nothing better for me than sitting in front of an open fire, coal-based if possible, watching a DV film of my choice, which, I don't know, it might be The Guns of Navarone or some French epic from the 1950s.
Well, once again, when all these four were together, it's a very, very close contest. Not that it is a contest, it's the fun we have that's more important than the points, of course. But I'll give you the situation. Sue Perkins, for once, is trailing a little in fourth place, and she's only 2 points behind an equal Graham Norton and Paul Merton. But out of the lead still is our newcomer, Jason Manford. Paul, we're back with you to begin. Oh, what an interesting subject. The definition of a gentleman. Can you tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now?
One definition of that is the definition of a gentleman is a man who can play the banjo but doesn't. I can't remember who came up with that one, but it's American in origin. I suppose the definition of a gentleman is a dandy, perhaps someone who believes in fair play, is very courteous. I can look no further than our esteemed chairman, Mr. Nicholas Parsons. What a wonderful gentleman he is. Barely out of his teens, and yet he has the demeanour of a much older gentleman. There's something about the way he carries himself through his many public appearances. He will open a supermarket at the drop of a hat, but there's no need to be near a milliner's to make this happen. No, indeed. He was once given the great honour of having one of the craters on the moon named after him, provided he would go up there and perform the ceremony and cut the ribbon. He was, of course, eager for any publicity, as he always is, and was happy.
Thank you, Paul. A well-deserved bonus point for speaking when the whistle went. And a bonus point because you were not interrupted. And you've increased your lead at the end of the round. No one else spoke. And actually, about that story about the crater on the moon, I said I'd only go up there if Paul came with me. And you've taken the lead, Paul. Oh, it's in descending order. Paul Merton, Jason Manford, Graham Norton, Sue Perkins, in that order. Only 1 point separating them all. Do you care? No. Right to care. Sue, your turn to begin. Oh, this is interesting. A remarkable sauce. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
For me, all sauces are remarkable, whether it's the humble ketchup, red and beautiful in its simplicity, or a white, some may say bechamel, a Mary Rose that adorns the simplest frozen prawn. You could also explore the exotic Italians, the bolognese, ragu and pestos that so conveniently drape themselves over pasta. I am aware I sound like Nigella, but excuse me, for this is a passion of mine. Sauce Viege over sea bass. I barely know what it is, and yet it's tiny slivers of tomato and virgin...
Paul challenged.
I'm sorry, I think we've had tomato before.
Yeah.
No. It's a shame. Maybe we didn't.
I didn't hear tomato.
No, I didn't hear it either now.
It was tomato ketchup, I remember. It was tomato ketchup.
No, I think I've forgotten.
I'm an idiot. No, I was thinking.
I withdraw my challenge.
Withdraw the challenge. You were very sporting. You're a very sporting player, Paul, and I think that's very generous of you, because they want to hear from Sue more about her sauces. A saucy girl with all these sauces. 20s. Oh, this audience is getting really warmed up now, aren't they? They're really... And they're really throbbing with it, as Frankie Hard used to say. 23 seconds still for you. Remarkable sauce starting now.
Mint, apple, bread, Worcestershire, Tabasco, ponzu, soy, oyster, plum.
Ponzu? What is that?
It's like spicy Japanese sauce. You get it over like breaded chicken.
Oh, right, OK.
Right.
Does anybody else heard of that?
Yes.
Yes, some people have. Yeah,
no, it does exist.
Oh, it does exist. All right.
It does exist, right?
Tomato.
And she's got 11...
It's hanging in the air, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I think I probably buzzed about 2 seconds too early.
I wonder if she's got any more sauces in her.
Oh, God.
Oh, she's got
11
loads.
seconds.
Loads.
Sauce, a remarkable sauce, Sue, starting now.
Remarkable sweet sauces, of course. Butterscotch, creme anglaise, also known as custard. Then you've got toffee, chocolate.
I thought there was a hesitation there.
I think at last we had a hesitation.
I've done all the sauces now, Nicholas.
But I think she should get a bonus point for all her sauces because the audience clap like that. They endorse it. Right. And Paul, you had a correct challenge. You get a point. And you've got the subject of a remarkable sauce starting now.
The Watergate trials started the whole business when the Bob Woodward and Cole...
Paul Merton speaks the whistle when gain that extra point. His increases lead at the end of the round. And we're back with you, Graham, to begin. Graham, the subject now is going on safari.
Oh.
I'm sure it's something you frequently do. And when you talk on the subject, 60 seconds starting now.
Ladies and gentlemen, exciting news. A subject I actually know something about. I've been on a safari. Let me tell you about it for 60 seconds. I was in Africa, not on a farm, but near a game reserve. We got there on a small plane. Ooh, it was frightening. I was quite scared. Then we landed and transferred onto some jeep sort of affair and went to our hut. It was luxurious, everybody. It had a plunge pool. Sadly, monkeys and other critters don't know what that is and mistook it for a toilet. So whenever you went into it, there was some mysterious brown goo just floating at eye height. It was not that 5-star, I'm here to tell you. We went on night drives. Yes, we did. It's odd because...
Sue, how dare you?
Slight hesitation and repeat of mysterious.
Really?
Really?
Well, it was.
There was two mysterious creatures.
Were there?
The silence.
Sue,
Definite.
one word, tomato.
I withdraw my challenge. I didn't hear anything.
Honestly, I was enjoying it so much.
I was there. I was in Africa with him.
I was enjoying his facial expressions as he described it. And I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt because we enjoyed it so much. Graham, carry on. 14 seconds going on safari, starting now.
When people go on safari, they like to see the big 5. Now, you imagine they'll be the scariest critters in all of...
Oh, Jason Charles.
Repetition of critters.
Yes.
I like that plaintive, no! Like she was diving in slow motion to put her hand over my mouth. Don't say critter, she said critter! Oh!
Now we'll never know what the big 5 are, but one is guinea pigs.
Jason, you challenged first. You got in there 7 seconds ago, going on safari, starting now.
Well, I would love to go on a safari in Africa. It'd be fantastic. I'd love to know what the big 5 are.
Repetition of love.
How heartless are you? Repetition of love.
There were 2 loves there.
What happened to you, Paul?
No. It's not harmless to have too much repetition of love.
He's played it so often, he picks up on these things very quickly. Paul, correct challenge. 3 seconds on, going on safari, starting now.
Lions, giraffes, tigers, tomatoes, hyenas. I've seen them all.
So we're moving into the final round. In ascending order, Sue Perkins, who often comes out on top, is trailing just a little.
Not here.
In 4th place, in spite of all her sources. But then again, that's this game. They can give incredible value, but don't get many points, which is what Sue's done here.
Yeah.
Graham Norton is 1 point ahead of her. He's giving great value on his safari and elsewhere. He's trailing Jason, who was our leader, by a couple of points. And Jason is trailing Paul Merton by about 4 points. Oh. But Jason, it's your turn to begin, and the subject now is the sat-nav.
Satellite navigation. My granddad actually invented it back in the early 80s. He used to get a dictaphone and a map of his journey and just record where he was going and then stick it with a bit of blue tack to the dashboard and press play along while he was driving. Every so often you would hear my gran interrupt with, your dinner's ready, Charlie. Don't interrupt me.
Sue challenge.
Repetition of interrupt.
Yes, that's right. Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, well, you started before I said now, then.
I was ready for it. If I'm taking one thing away from it, it's that.
Sue, the sat-nav is the subject. You have 45 seconds starting now.
The 4 most depressing words in the English vocabulary. Turn around where possible. I can't abide sat-navs, whether it be the male or female voice, because part of a great journey is getting lost, or at least discovering the way for yourself. How many incredible experiences have we had by circumventing the most direct route possible? Surely it's the byroads, it's the little tiny tributaries, apart from the major routes that take you from A to B. Life is to be experienced. I don't want to rush it, and certainly I don't want to be told by some...
Yes, Paul challenged.
Repetition. I'm sorry, sadly, I don't want to.
I don't want to. Right, Paul, correct challenge. The sat-nav is with you, and 13 seconds available starting now.
As I approached the sat-nav for the first time, I realised myself and the machine were going to enter a battle of wits. I was completely nonplussed within seconds, and it won hands down. Ever since, I have found myself being directed into canals, cul-de-sacs...
Let me give you the final score. Sue Perkins leapt forward in that round. Graham Norton was already leaping, but didn't leap far enough. So Sue Perkins and Graham Norton are equal in third place, just behind Jason Manford, who's not played the game. He only played it once before, as far as I know. And a few points ahead of all of them was Paul Merton, so we say, Paul, you are the winner this week. To say thank you to these 4 fine players of the game, Paul Merton, Jason Manford, Sue Perkins and Graham Norton. I thank Sharon Leonard, who's helped me with the score, blown her whistle so delicately on the 60 seconds moment. And we thank our audience here in the Radio Theatre. We're grateful to our producer, to Lucia Galani. We're indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game. And it's lovely to be with this audience here. Tune in again the next time we play Just a Minute. Until then, from all of us here, including me, Nicholas Parsons, goodbye. Thank you.